Tonight, party leaders face off in the first election debate in French.
Mr. Poilievre's approach is everyone for themselves.
You're just like Justin Trudeau.
Who came out on top in the fight for votes in Quebec?
These are Harry Potter financial frameworks. You need a lot of magic to make it work.
You showed that you were as useless as the monarchy is.
And why one party got the boot. Taking the political pulse in battleground Montreal.
Who is the best candidate to deal with Trump?
Plus, why the Bank of Canada held its key interest rate. Stunning scenes at a Republican town hall and the state suing Trump.
What the hell do we have on the Canadiens?
And the hockey game that everyone's talking about.
Sends it over to Katie Dooley. Dooley with a shot, scores!
Did the Canadiens do enough to clinch a playoff spot?
Suzuki, right, shoots, scores!
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, reporting tonight from Montreal.
Good evening. Four leaders faced off for the first time tonight, making their case directly to Canadians in the French debate in the building right behind me. There will be another tomorrow in English. Let's bring in CTV senior political correspondent Mike Legator to walk us through some of the highlights. And Mike, this debate covering a lot of ground, from Donald Trump to the economy to the environment. What were some of the more pointed exchanges?
Yeah, Omar, if you're looking for a knockout punch, you might have been disappointed. There were some good jabs, though. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh going after Yves-François Blanchet, the leader of the Bloc Québécois, calling him as useless as the monarchy in the last parliament. Now, we also learned Mark Carney says he will unveil his platform this weekend. And on that, Blanchet took him to task and Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, for their lack of accounting. Have a listen.
These are Harry Potter financial frameworks. You need a lot of magic to make it work. There needs to be more money, but we're going to do cuts. They want to be more conservative than the Conservatives.
Now, as many had expected, Mark Carney, the Liberal leader, was the main source of attack, was the person that everybody was going after in this debate. He is the leader in the polls right now, and of course he is the Prime Minister right now. And so he and Mr. Poilievre did lock horns at one point, and that was the moment that I think a lot of people were waiting for. Have a look.
Doesn't it embarrass you to ask Canadians for a fourth term of office after the worst Liberal record?
I've just become leader. And
Same members of Parliament, it's the same old promises.
Now, all parties believe that their leaders did best tonight, and they get to do it all over again tomorrow. Omar?
That's right, Mike. Thank you so much for this tonight. And here's what the leaders had to say about their performance after the debate.
I'm really proud that I was able to make the case to Canadians, to Quebecers, to French-speaking Canadians, that what New Democrats are going to do is stand up for what matters most to you. I made it a point to stand up for healthcare.
I don't believe that anybody can be better off fighting Trump alone. I believe that we have to build alliance between equals. It means Canada and Mexico and European countries and Asian countries and Quebec.
In this circumstance that we're in, given the scale of the crisis and what needs to be done, I would say a relentless focus on growing the economy to work for all Canadians.
Everybody is divided. This group is divided against that group. There is crime and chaos in our streets. The Liberals have promoted this division by saying one thing to one group and then exactly the opposite to a different group.
And let's bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashik Fellows, right now. Vashik, we know that politicians make a lot of promises that cost a lot of money. They were asked today, the leaders, why they did not cost their platforms heading into tonight's debate, before tonight's debate. What did they have to say?
Yeah, it was a particularly relevant question, and I thought the appropriate amount of pushback from the moderator in particular. I mean, they are making, I think it's important to point out in this election, very expensive promises about how they're going to support Canadians through a crisis, how they're going to grow the economy. That comes at a price. And they're also at the same time making promises about how they're going to decrease revenue through tax cuts. So how does it all add up? It quite simply does not. So they have to show their work. And the fact they haven't prior to the debates means less accountability on the part of Canadians towards them.
Was there a clear winner after tonight?
Yeah, I think we all went in wondering if there would be, certainly. I had the sentiment throughout watching it that there wasn't a clear winner that emerged per se, but instead everybody tried not to lose. And in particular, Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney, who held back, I felt as I watched it, didn't go for the jugular, certainly in either case, versus Jagmeet Singh, who probably had the least to lose, and it showed because he kind of did go for the jugular. I'm just not sure, given where the NDP sits right now in public opinion polling, if he necessarily can gain all that much from what he tried to do.
All right, and we know round 2 is tomorrow, and you'll have special coverage on CTV News Channel beginning at 5 p.m. The debate, of course, is at 7 p.m. Vashi, thank you so much for this tonight. Well, plenty of drama today before the debate even got underway as the commission behind it disinvited the Green Party. CTV's Rachel Aiello on what's behind the decision and how the party is reacting.
When Jonathan Pedneau got up this morning, he was expecting to be debating tonight. But less than 12 hours before he was to take the stage, debate organizers rescinded his invite.
Let me be clear, their last-minute decision to exclude the Green Party of Canada from the leaders' debate is not only unjust and baseless, because we met the criteria, it is undemocratic.
That decision from the commission in charge of federal election debates was based on one key requirement: running candidates in at least 90% of federal ridings. And after vowing to nominate 343, Elections Canada only lists 232 Green candidates. The commission said that because the Green Party intentionally reduced the number of candidates running for strategic reasons, it no longer met the intention of the participation criteria to justify inclusion in the leaders' debates.
How can you say that you met the criteria?
After dodging questions this morning, Pedneau confirmed the Greens had a hard time confirming candidates.
We were faced with significant challenges out in the field.
Last week, co-leader Elizabeth May told CTV that having Pedneau in the debates would help elevate the party's profile in this campaign. But today,
it was such a rude awakening.
Liberal leader Mark Carney called the commission decision unfortunate, while the NDP said they reject any attempt to politicize the nonpartisan body. Ultimately, the debate went ahead with one less leader.
Asked if he plans to take this to court, Pedneau said the party is still considering it, but that takes time. And so tomorrow's English language showdown is set to go down without the Greens. Omar?
All right, Rachel, thank you. Tonight's French language debate happened in a province that has the second largest number of seats after Ontario. Politicians going after voters that are known to shift their party preference depending on what issues are at stake. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin breaks it down.
The road to a majority in Ottawa often goes through Quebec with its 78 ridings. And so, no wonder wooing La Belle Province is part of the game plan.
Yeah, the way numbers are looking right now, it's likely that Ontario will decide who wins or loses, and Quebec might decide whether it's a minority or a majority.
Cracking the Quebec code, though, is at times tricky for federal parties. This is a province prone to electoral waves. Take, for instance, the Orange Crush of Jack Layton's NDP in 2011. It won 80% of Quebec's seats. Now it holds just one riding. The Bloc Québécois, too, has seen highs and lows. It once formed the official opposition. This time, Quebec's concerns more closely match those of the ROC, the rest of Canada.
Celui qui va travailler le plus pour le Canada.
We should choose the leader who will work hardest for Canada, says this 89-year-old woman. I want my grandchildren to be Quebecers, not Americans. The Québécois, once least attached to Canada, have draped themselves in the maple leaf.
And even those respondents that would say they're voting yes in a referendum seem to be feeling a greater degree of pride in Canada, paradoxically.
Jack Jedwab says that to some, Canada looks like a buffer for Quebec.
A buffer against the threat emerging from the United States that's not only an economic threat, but that also has language dimensions to it.
A U.S. report pointed to Quebec's recently revamped language law, Bill 96, as a trade barrier. Among its provisions, it tightens rules about trademarks on product packaging.
The idea of, annexation to that behemoth right next door certainly is not very appealing when you're already concerned about protecting your own cultural identity and language.
And there's also the fact that President Donald Trump has made English the official language of the U.S. Omar.
All right, Genevieve, thank you. Well, as Genevieve mentioned, Donald Trump is a key issue here, as he is everywhere in Canada. And it could be the reason a Montreal area riding, which went from Liberal to Bloc, flips back. I spent some time there earlier today.
It's a very touching story.
For more than 20 years, Philippe Sarrazin has been selling stories at his Montreal bookstore.
Comes from a very poor economical...
And even though he's seen just about every plot in that time, even he is unsure about his province's next chapter. Are you nervous about the future of Quebec, or are you optimistic?
I'm on hold right now. I can't say. Honestly, I try to be more optimistic, but now it's beginning to stress us a little bit more, because it's more than rhetoric now. It's actually happening. But we have to deal with the situation of right now, and I hope that in the next years we'll be able to find new solutions, new markets, and new ways of reinventing ourselves and moving forward.
You adapt, and that's how we survive.
Yeah, that's it. We always do. You have no choice. You have no choice.
His store is in the riding of La Salle-Marverdun, a former Liberal stronghold that flipped to the Bloc by fewer than 300 votes in a September by-election and could flip back.
Even if you are for the independence of Quebec, we are not an independent state right now. We won't be in the next year or two, for sure. So we have to look at what's going on right now. And right now, the issue is, who is the best candidate to deal with Trump?
It's a theme province-wide, and polls show the Liberals are the biggest beneficiary with a sizable lead.
I think for a lot of Quebecers, they're thinking about Quebec within Canada and Quebec onto itself, and who might be the best leader to position themselves to defend Quebec's interests.
Down the street is Richard Ho's gym. It's where famous former mixed martial artist Quebec's Georges St. Pierre trained just this morning.
I believe Donald is a bully, and I think what I teach people here, from kids to adults to our pros, bullies, they don't like it when people stand up to them.
Ho is also nervous about the Trump effect.
When people are making less money and being affected business-wise, it affects everyone, and obviously affects business like this as well.
And while it's a key consideration for voters at this neighborhood coffee shop, it's not the only one. Marjan Shirazi is also thinking about foreign policy and access to childcare as her ballot box issues.
Anything related to families, women, and mothers. Specifically, I'm talking about the daycare problems these days.
Well, the economy is always top of mind for Canadians, and today the Bank of Canada held its key interest rate at 2.75% after 7 straight reductions.
The path for U.S. trade policy remains highly unpredictable. There's also considerable uncertainty about the impacts of a trade war on our economy.
And let's get to CTV's chief financial correspondent, Amanda Lang, right now. And as we just heard, Amanda, the bank citing the uncertainty from the U.S., but the fact that they didn't raise or lower but held the rate today, what does that tell us?
Omar, what it tells us is the bank feels the same uncertainty as the rest of us. And so it's presenting 2 scenarios. In one scenario, we have a prolonged trade war, in which case the Canadian economy goes into recession soon and stays there for a year. Inflation's above 3%. That's a drastic one. The other scenario is a negotiated settlement, and we move past this. We might see a slowdown as soon as next quarter, the summer months, but we come out of it and inflation stays below 2%, in fact. Obviously, Macklem et al. Are saying they don't know which one it will be. We have a little bit of a bright spot in China offering to negotiate. That at least gives us some hope, perhaps, that we may not see that global trade war. But it's very interesting to see our central bank, which could help if it needs to, in the same boat as the rest of us, and that is just a sea of uncertainty. Omar?
All right, Amanda, thank you. Tariff talk had the stock market taking a hit today as the chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve issued a pointed analysis.
The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects.
Jerome Powell saying Trump's tariffs are likely to trigger higher inflation and slower growth in the U.S. Those comments, though, only part of the reason the stock market tumbled. The market's seeing a big tech sell-off led by Nvidia, which is seeing a $5.5 billion charge over chips it sent to China.
Together with Governor Newsom, I'm filing our 14th lawsuit against the president.
And California is taking Donald Trump to court over tariffs, the first state to do that. Governor Gavin Newsom filing a lawsuit arguing that Trump does not have the authority to impose those tariffs. And with Canada, Mexico, and China as California's biggest trading partners, the state is disproportionately affected by the levies. And dramatic moments at a town hall hosted by Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Multiple protesters were physically removed, arrested, and even tased by local police. Republican leaders have actually advised members to avoid in-person town halls over anger directed at the party and the U.S. president. Coming up,
what we should be doing is tightening the threat surface on these government-issued devices.
Why high-profile Canadian officials are facing the heat for keeping a low profile. Plus, what's top of mind for voters in a charming coastal town. The messaging app Signal has become popular for its privacy settings. Now the platform is at the center of a controversy. CTV's Adrian Gobriel with the new concerns.
More than 300,000 mobile devices issued to federal government employees are currently in circulation.
What we should be doing is tightening the threat surface on these government-issued devices.
The person responsible for determining what apps are allowed on the smartphones of federal workers is Chief Information Officer of Canada, Dominic Rochon. Though it's on Rochon's own work phone that a Freedom of Information request known as an FOI revealed that Rochon had the text applications Signal and WhatsApp set to have messages disappear just 7 days after being sent or received.
There's a lot of not just transparency issues at play here, but also security issues.
Matt Malone, an associate professor with the Faculty of Law at the University of Ottawa, filed the FOI. Recently, a large group of high-ranking U.S. government officials came under fire after a journalist was mistakenly looped into a Signal message chat about a pending military assault on Houthi militants in Yemen. In Canada, Malone has been working to draw attention to the questionable transparency from our public institutions.
The timeline for responding to an access to information request is 30 days. And here we see the deletion of text messages within 7 days on at least 2 apps. Messages are being deleted systematically.
The country's chief information officer is part of the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat, an agency responsible for overseeing the finances and operations of the federal government, including Canada's Access to Information System. In an email to CTV News, a TBS spokesperson wrote in part that public servants must retain all records, regardless of medium or format, including emails, meeting records, handwritten notes, or instant messages.
If it's on a government-issued device, it's government-related.
It's unclear if any messages were sent or received from the apps on Mr. Rochon's phone. We've taken steps to reach out to him. As of this evening, we've yet to receive a response. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
Still ahead.
Sends it over to Caden Gooley. Gooley with a shot, scores!
How a high-stakes hockey game in Montreal played out. Well, the French debate wasn't the only fierce face-off in Montreal tonight. The Canadiens faced their own pressure to clinch a spot in the NHL playoffs.
Slavkovsky jumping on the loose puck, trying to get in front of Jankowski. Carrier's got it. Suzuki, waits, shoots, scores!
A huge win for the Habs against the Carolina Hurricanes as they punched their playoff ticket in front of the home crowd. That victory keeping the dream alive for the team and for Montreal Canadiens fans. CTV's Matt Guerrillo joins us now. And Matt, I can only imagine there's a sense of jubilation outside the Bell Center right now.
That's exactly it, Omar. Excitement, a lot of excitement. It's really electric. There's a buzz in the air. There was a buzz pre-game and no doubt post-game as well, especially after a 4-2 victory. over the Carolina Hurricanes. This is a big moment for the Montreal Canadiens, and certainly a big moment for its fan base as well. It's been 4 years since the Habs have been into the playoffs. The last time was in 2021 when the Canadiens played in the Stanley Cup Finals. The Habs needed 1 point tonight. They needed a victory, of course, and they secured that. That gives the Habs 2 points and gets them that coveted playoff spot. So the Habs will be in the first round of the playoffs. No doubt, more excitement to come, more big moments, more big-time hockey to come here at the Bell Centre as the Montreal Canadiens make their way through into first round of the playoffs. Omar?
And by the sounds of it, those celebrations still going on. Matt, thank you so much for this tonight. Still ahead, the next stop in our Campaign Road series takes us to a place known as the Cradle of Canada. We're taking a closer look at communities across Canada this election. Quebec's Gaspe Peninsula is known as the Cradle of Canada and has its own unique concerns, which is why we sent CTV's Sarah Plowman there to speak to voters about what's top of mind.
People who live along the Gaspe Peninsula don't need to show off. The scenery does it for them. Part of a deep connected history for Francophones, Anglophones, and the Mi'kmaq showcased at this site in Gaspe that calls itself the birthplace of Canada.
Jacques Cartier came here in 1534, planted a cross, took possession of the land in the name of the King of France. Is not the original one from Jacques.
As site coordinator Roxanne Dufresne shares the past, she looks to her future. At 26, the lifelong resident is learning it's difficult to find a house she can afford.
Houses are expensive, and here the issue is that they're very old. So you're going to pay a lot of money for a house, and it's going to be heated by wood.
Finding an apartment to rent can also prove difficult. In 2024, Gaspe's vacancy rate was 0.3%. James Cassidy recently moved back from Quebec City.
I was lucky enough to know people and have contacts to find myself a way around, but for people who don't know or are not from here, it's probably harder.
The mayor says the community has been building 100 new homes a year, but they need more help.
The federal government and the provincial government must invest in affordable housing.
This federal election, the economy is his top concern. Wind power, manufacturing, and the fisheries are big industries here. Any talk of a tariff is concerning. Here, where seafood is on the menu, trade tensions show up too. The owner wants certainty in his costs.
We just hope that's not going to be get high.
There is hope that trade tensions with the U.S. could lead to more tourism here as Canadians look to discover their own country this summer. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Gaspe, Quebec.
And that's a snapshot of this Wednesday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.